Kia ora koutou katoa, it's Mrs. Goodson here. This video is about polymers and specifically addition polymers that you need to know for level 2 chemistry for NCEA. So this video is about what are polymers and some examples of natural and synthetic polymers. What is addition polymerization? And I'm going to talk about drawing monomers from polymers and drawing polymers from monomers, which is a typical exam questions for level 2 chemistry. So what are polymers? Polymers are large molecules called macromolecules. That's because they're very, very long chain organic molecules made up of hundreds or thousands of atoms joined together in big long chains. They are made up of repeating units called monomers. When the monomers join together, this is called polymerization. There are lots of natural polymers, and some examples are starch or cellulose, wool, rubber, DNA, and other big long chain molecules. There are also many synthetic polymers, and most of these are non-biodegradable. We generally know those as plastics. So let's look at the structure of polymers. These big long chain molecules can be tangled, and the long chains are held together by intermolecular forces of attraction or cross-linked covalent bonds. So as the polymer chain grows, the chains become more tangled. The intermolecular forces increase in number and the melting point is higher. The polymer gets stronger. Now, there are different kinds of plastics. There are thermoplastics, which have been heated. There are fibers where the chains are all in the same direction. And then there are also thermoset plastics where the heat has created bonds between the chains. Here are some examples of natural polymers. The first one I've got on this slide is cellulose. Cellulose is found in plants and makes up the cell walls of plant cells. You can see that we use the square brackets here to show the repeating unit. So this part here is just repeated hundreds and hundreds, thousands of times to make big long chains. Another example of a natural polymer is natural rubber. That's made from the sap of these trees. You can see that this part here repeats again and again and again to make up big long chains. At the end of the structure, we can see this bit here, which is indicating that the chain just repeats. DNA is an example of a natural polymer, and it's held together through weak hydrogen bonds between the two strands. That is an example. These are all examples of natural polymers. Synthetic polymers. Alkenes are monomers for several common polymers, and the reaction involved is addition polymerization, just like the addition reactions that alkenes undergo. If you have the same alkene and it joins to itself, then you can make big long chains. An addition reaction is one in which two or more molecules join together to give a single product. During the polymerization of ethene, thousands of ethene molecules join together to make polyethene, commonly called polythene. So we've got one ethene, two ethene, we're going to draw three ethene molecules here. We've got 1, 2, 3. What happens is the double bond breaks and forms a single bond between the molecules. So you can see here, you can see that is the repeating unit. And for this example, I've got 3 repeating units of ethene and it becomes polyethene. And now it's just got single bonds and it's just I've just used these 3 dots at the end to show that it repeats to make really big long chains. So The monomer is ethene and the polymer is polyethene. It's produced by addition polymerization. Polyethene is probably the most used plastic in the world. It's made for used for plastic films, plastic bags, bottles, etc., etc., etc. This is how they take the raw product and they melt these little zoodles down, these little balls of plastic, and they can make a whole lot of different other things. Now, the advantages of this material is it's waterproof, it's durable, it's very, very versatile, can be made into lots of different things, and it's very economical because the ethene comes from crude oil. So as a byproduct, it is very cheap. Okay, so this is the base addition polymerization, and then we're going to see some other addition polymerizations. Another example is polypropylene or polypropene. So the monomer is propene, and then it adds to itself, the double bond breaks and forms a single bond with another molecule of propene. So then that makes polypropene. Another name for polypropene is polypropylene, polyprop. Here is the repeating unit. You can see that it is repeating here twice. So that the double bond used to be here and here, but it's opened up and formed single bonds to make a very big long chain. This also is a very strong, light, durable plastic that's used to make loads of different things like tables and chairs and thermal clothing and bottles and all sorts of other things. Another example is polyvinyl chloride or PVC. Its monomer is chloroethene. So one of the hydrogens has been replaced with a chlorine atom. It adds to itself and makes polychloroethene. Now this molecule here is called vinyl chloride. That's its common name. So it's polyvinyl chloride or PVC. So it makes lots of different things as well, like pipes and foam board and lino and artificial leather and car seats and a whole lot of different other things. But you can see the repeating unit is here. This has got two repeating units, and just the hydrogen has been replaced with a chlorine here. So the chlorine is there, there, and there. It just repeats itself. Another example is Teflon. Now, Teflon was designed by NASA for the sides of rockets, and it's also used to make non-stick pots and pans. So the monomer is tetrafluoroethane, where all the hydrogens have been replaced with a fluorine atom. So tetra for 4, fluoroethane. It's going to add to itself, and in this example, we've got 3 repeating units. 1, 2, 3. The double bond has opened up to make single bonds, and then it repeats itself. So it makes polytetrafluoroethane, commonly known as Teflon. Now, we couldn't talk about plastics without recognizing some of the disadvantages. Plastic is really, really durable, which makes it a fantastic material. But plastic is very durable, which makes it a really bad material because it does not break down in the environment. It floats down rivers, goes into the ocean, seabirds eat it. Unfortunately, it builds up in their stomachs because they can't digest it, and they die from malnutrition because they're not getting any nutrients and their stomach is full. This poor turtle has had this plastic around it for a long time, and its shell has become deformed. So just to bear in mind that while plastic has many advantages, it also has many disadvantages. Okay, so in an exam question, you might be asked to start. You're given the polymer and you're asked to recognize and draw the monomer. So all you do for this is circle the simplest repeating unit, and then you draw it and place a carbon-carbon double bond in the place of the single bond. So for example here, this is the repeating unit. You can see we've actually got 2 here. So it's repeating. This is the main chain along here. So you just draw So you can see you're going to this as a double bond. So you've replaced the single bond between the carbons with a double bond, and the rest of it, you're just going to draw it exactly the same. So on this carbon here, it's only got 2 hydrogens, so you write 2 hydrogens. On this carbon here, it's got 1 hydrogen, and this group here. So there's the second carbon, and then there's the side group. So you just copy the side group exactly. All you've done is change this, the single bond into a double bond, and just drawn it once, and then you've drawn the monomer. Alternatively, you could be given the monomer and asked to draw the polymer. So the monomer will have the carbon-carbon double bond. So if you treat every monomer as though it was ethene, and then you just replace the hydrogens with the more exciting looking molecule that NCA usually finds for you. So the process is, so you start with the monomer. So in this example here, you've got ethene, and you replace the carbon-carbon double bond with a single bond. We've got 3 repeating units. You're often asked for 3 repeating units. You connect the carbons that were part of the carbon-carbon double bond to each other, so they're all connected, and then you leave the ends open here and here because it's repeating. So that's the base one. So ethene to polyethene. Here is an example of butene. So 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons, but the double bond is here. So if you draw it like this, then you can easily see, so you draw the shape of the double bond so that you can see the side chain. Then what you're going to do is replace the carbon-carbon double bond with a single bond. So this goes over here, this bit here becomes this bit over here. And the side chain, this part here, just becomes this part here. 1, 2, 3. First now draw 3 repeating units. So 1, 2, 3. So it's opened up to form single bonds between the carbon chains, and then this part here is a side chain. All right, let's look at some example exam questions. The first one might ask you, draw 3 repeating units of the polymer formed from 1,1-dichloroethane. So if they just give you the name and they haven't given you the structure, the first thing you do would be to draw the structure. So we're going to open up this carbon-carbon double bond, make it a single bond, and we're going to draw it 3 times, and we're going to add it to itself. So the 2 chlorines are on one carbon and the 2 hydrogens are on the other carbon. So that's what this is going to look like. The 2 chlorines are on one carbon, and then the 2 hydrogens are on the next carbon, and then it's going to join onto another repeating unit and another repeating unit. So altogether, there are 3 repeating units. We've got 1, 2, 3. Okay, and we just leave the ends open. So we just look at each carbon and just alternate it as we go along. Now, in this question, you're asked to draw the structure of the monomer used to make this polymer. You can see that it repeats 3 times. So we've actually got 3, 1, 2, 3. So there's going to be 2 carbons of the double bond. And then you can see this carbon's got a hydrogen and a C2H5 group. And this carbon's got 2 chlorines. So all we need to do is to draw a carbon-carbon double bond there. And then this carbon has a hydrogen and this group here, either you can draw it like that or you can draw it like that, is fine. And this carbon has 2 chlorines. So you can see I've drawn the 2 chlorines on there. So that was the monomer used to make this polymer. Now here are some practice questions. I want you to draw the monomers from which the following polymers are made.